Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be talking about how to find your passion, your dream career, your dream job, whatever you want to call it. Here's the thing though, I've been checking up lately on the internet, YouTube videos, articles, TED Talks, lectures about this topic, and lately there's been more stuff on it. I would say a while ago I had read everything there was, watched everything there was on the topic, and most of the books on the topic. And quite frankly, that may seem like a lot. I mean, you can guess how many articles on Google there was about this, but actually, it wasn't that much. I would say there was only maybe like a few books on it, a few like 3 to 10 lectures and videos that were good on the topic. So it didn't take like ages to do so, and nonetheless, it took a while, and I really got a firm perspective of it. Then, I just talked to a lot of people about this, preferably in person, whatever else. And personally, I wanted to share with you a updated video on the topic because lately I've been noticing that there's new videos on this topic, and I've watched most of them now. There's still not that many good ones where they actually like take the time to do it, but it's getting more and more and more, and there's a reason why this is. There's also a ton more articles on this topic and people talking about this, and now there's like blogs with girls talking about how they were lost throughout their lives, and it's okay to not know where you want to go and all this stuff, and everyone's relating to it and so forth. So I really want to give you some practical advice and information on this topic, having this eagle eye perspective. I'm not saying I'm an expert at this, but I do have a little bit more cross reference, having looked at a lot of stuff about this, podcast, interviews, and so forth. So I think one of the things that you have to watch out for is this whole theory or idea of law of attraction, or just giving to the world, and one day it will just magically come back to you. I do think there are certain psychological and scientific reasons to which subconsciously programming your mind helps you. And then there's case stories like the actor Jim Carrey, the billionaire Bill Bartman, and the best-selling author Robert Kiyosaki, all of which who did this when they were poor and imagined themselves were already rich, and but had a clear or definitive plan on how they would get to where they would be rich and eventually achieved it. I think unfortunately what occurs is that there's this whole law of attraction community, and I think they take it a bit too far. I think you need to put in actual work and do something rather than just sit there and just will it, and then hopefully it will come to you in 10 years. That's not how it works. That's just sitting on your butt, not doing work. And unfortunately, I think one of the big reasons why that sells is because people are lazy and they don't want to do work. And therefore, people are willing to just throw money at scams that will say, oh, if you just take this program and you just let law of attraction come into your life, and then you sit on your butt and do nothing, 10 years from now, you'll have millions of dollars. And it's funny because I don't see any billionaires who have even come close to saying something like that. If they did have some level of it, it was strategic, and they put in the work and effort and so forth. So beware of advice saying that stuff like, it will just come to you. Just do what you love and the money will follow. There's actually a book on that topic. And so here's my opinion on this thing. There's a lot of books on the topic, and one of the more prominent ones is So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. Now, I would say it's a decent book. It's moderately good. It's not the most mind-breaking book, so I would give it a 3 out of 5. Now, I am throwing a lot of curveballs and stuff like that, but I just wanted my honest opinion of things. And I would be lying if I told you guys, oh, that book, 5 out of 5, that advice, 100% agree with it. And honestly, in order to actually succeed, you can't just be taking bad advice. And I just wanted to be honest. I think there's some good points in the book, but I don't think it's a full picture, and it's fairly, really short, and it just gives a foundational level understanding of this. So what's going on here? I think one of the big issues is that a lot of the videos I've seen on this topic, like Scott Dinsmore's video, he got 1 point, however many views, million views online for his TED Talk. It never addresses how do you go about this? How do you do this? How do you fix this? And a lot of the advice, quite frankly, is this stuff like, oh, just do what you want and the money will follow. It's too broad and vague, which paralyzes you or just makes you confused and does nothing. I mean, you can watch the Scott Dinsmore video for yourself, and he's a great guy. Unfortunately, he passed away. Rest in peace. He truly lived his legend and died in a rock climbing accident. But if you actually watch the video, he never goes into the how that much. It's more just so that you should follow your passion, and I think that's one of the big roadblocks. I think many people will fail in the sense that they're too lazy to do anything. But if you have that hard work ethic, what's next? What else do you have to do? Again, I'm not saying I'm an expert or I have the full answer, but these are certain things I've come across that may help you along in that journey. Maybe you already have something, but you want to create something better in your life. So rather than just willing it or wishing it, you have to do more than that. You have to be strategic, and these are things you have to consider. Market demand, in terms of monetary demand, will other people actually pay in some way their own cash for it? Second thing is skill set. You have to realize it's a competitive world out there. Are you good enough and skilled enough in order to be at the top? And those are the two big ones. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to take it, I'm going to tell you now. So now that you know about it, but sometimes certain people will say stuff like, oh, you just have to do what you're interested in and it will come. And they kind of fall into it because they're just really good at what they did and there's a market demand and somehow they got paid for it. So that doesn't mean it happened overnight. That doesn't mean it was easy. That doesn't mean they didn't put in hard work. But nonetheless, it also means that sometimes they don't know how difficult it can be to discover these things or create them because they oftentimes fell into them in certain ways. Not always, for sure not always. But I think a great example would be YouTubers. A lot of them I've come to discover, they don't even realize a lot of the things that they're doing. It's like, oh, I just put up videos. It's like, do you even realize how good you are at editing your thumbnails, or the fact that you can edit your videos really well, or that they're so well lit and lighted and they're high production and you know how to choose proper titles? Do you even know that you're doing all this? No, I just put up videos, man, and it just so happens that it worked. Do you even know that there's a high demand in your vertical and search volume for whatever it is? There's specific keywords and terms like and topics like specific video games and like video games, pranks, toys. Do you even know that these things are one of the reasons that give you that traffic, that make up? So if you understand from a deeper level, you know that there's market demand, people actually demanding this and wanting to pay in some form. In terms of YouTube, they get paid via ads. So because of the large amount of traffic in terms of views, they will get paid via ads. For most other professions and businesses, it's usually through a product or service. iPhone, iPod, but it can be something as simple as a hamburger or cheeseburger, a delivery service, a prepped for you meal plan. It could be a lot of things. Maybe it's a tutorial or course. Anyhow, you can kind of get the point. So there's market demand in a sense that people are willing to pay for. That's another big thing. There's tons of market demand, but maybe it's not monetizable. Let's say, for instance, you want to just uh, dance on the streets, and there's tons of people who will clap for you, but no one's willing to pay you to do that. And or another great one are a lot of failed business ideas. A lot of these people, they have these great cool things, they make up these products that are really cool and entertaining to watch, but no one's willing to pay you for that, and because you didn't validate that, it fails. So there's market demand, and then there's skill set. Can you become skilled enough to be at least above average to a point where you can make a modest or decent amount of money at this? And then I think to wrap this all up, the final thing is getting out there and getting that experience, even if it means starting at the bottom level, and going out there and actually acquiring that experience. And here's the key thing: learning new things, to experience new things in order to discover new passions and interests in job titles. I think a lot of young people are very naive, and they don't understand all the different things that are out there. They don't understand that I could do this, and this. They don't understand the variety of job titles out there because of a very rigid perspective that they were given when they were grown up. You have to be a doctor, engineer, computer programmer, lawyer, musician, therapist, and they're very generic pillar titles, whereas in reality there's tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of different job titles you've never heard of: account executive, account coordinator, marketing representative, manager, managerial staff, all sorts of crazy stuff beyond my comprehension. So hopefully once you've considered all that, you can take the next step, which would be to go out there and talk to people or get jobs in areas where you have that, at least a decent amount of interest, and you have that potential to acquire those skills. And it's okay if you start from the bottom. I think that's one thing that people fall into. They think that you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do any of this because of certain elements of concepts out there. There's that 10,000 hour rule by Malcolm Gladwell that says to be the best in the world at something, you need 10,000 hours at it. Well, for most of you guys, you don't need to be the best in the world to do fairly well. And even then, it's very tough to stay there, number one in the world. And for a lot of people, it paralyzes them from transitioning to another career or whatever else. Ideally, you want to move in an upward trajectory, but at the same time, it's completely okay to adopt new things. If you've never done computer programming anymore in the past, if it's really something you're really interested in, learn about, and you could really enjoy, it's better to start now than never. Even if you're a little late or a lot late, I think you possibly missing out on a whole new world that you could really enjoy. And if that means starting at entry level, so be it. So again, those are things that you want to take into account. These are not definitive answers, but these are simply things that I've picked up myself that may be of help. I do not claim to be an expert or anything like this. If you want advice from experts or people who have done this for decades, check out books like, I would say, What Color Is Your Parachute? That's a best-selling book on the topic. Or So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. However, having said that still, I think the world is a changing place. Your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, they lived in completely different times where your choices were very limited. And in a lot of countries in the world, that's still the case. In the past, history was in a place where you had a very limited set of options, And you can look this up. There were literally lines stretching out until as far as the eye can see of people just trying to get any job, just any job at all. And that was during the Great Depression and so forth. So times have changed, and a lot of new areas have opened up. A lot of new things have opened up for us to do a lot of things with. And therefore, you're getting all sorts of crazy jobs that were never possible in the past. Professional gamer, YouTube gamer, people pretty much doing YouTube videos for a living, makeup, and so forth. But even then, you have to realize it's still wrapped around this same framework of, can you compete? I mean, there's that 1% of the 1% of the thousands of aspiring makeup beauty YouTubers who actually make even a decent salary. And then there's also, can I get there? Can I persevere and grow and not give up to get there? Then there's, I guess, the last thing. Again, it's your interest, market demand, and skill set. So market demand, is there actually a market for it? So let's say you really want to stitch and knit stuff. Is there any possible way that you can turn this into an income? Or is there only like 7 people in the world who care enough about it? Again, maybe those 7 are willing to pay enough for you to coach them or teach them. I've seen that occur before. But maybe that's not enough for a YouTube model. So keep those things into account. Again, it's a very, there's a lot going on here, economic, historical stuff, but you don't need to know all that. Again, just keep to those 3 things: interest, market demand, and skill sets. And I think the final thing, just to wrap up this entire video, to conclude this whole thing, is that when you start looking at these things and you start comparing and contrasting them, just get out there. Try it out, because you can spend years just writing in your notebook or writing things down and doing Venn diagrams with them, which I've done before for a long time, and get nowhere. But when you actually go into the real world and you experience a job or career, or you actually live out a hobby or activity, you learn fairly quickly whether this is something you actually enjoy or not. And you open yourself up to new careers and job opportunities or whatever else that you were not even aware of. You can't do that just by sitting in your cave and, just drawing out Venn diagrams, unfortunately. And that is something that people don't realize. And I was told this, but I had to learn the hard way. Now, finally, I just want to give you one last bonus thing. Again, these are all just opinions subject to change in the future, possibly. Remember that despite the changes in the world, unfortunately, not everything is applicable. If it was, it would be a completely different place. People would be probably really obese, sitting on their couch, eating potato chips, getting paid millions to do that, and that'd be fine. Not everything in the world can become your passion point blank. Sometimes you have to shape and shift them to meet those criteria of monetizable market demand, and the second one, which is being competitive enough in your skill set. So, and having those skills. So, for instance, eating potato chips on your couch, you're probably not going to make millions doing that. There's no market demand. No one's going to pay you to do that. You may be able to spin it or turn it slightly. Maybe you can be entertaining while you watch movies and do movie reviews, and maybe possibly make money as an entertainer doing that. Even then, it's a stretch. So not everything can be turned into your skill set. So some argue that you can blend all of them together, and you have to add in every passion into this one big career set. That's not necessarily the case. There are certain things that you just want to leave alone. Maybe you don't want to turn golfing and mix that in with your other skill sets. And then some things, you could want to just sit on a beach all day and drink beer, but that point blank will not make them money. You would have to be really creative or create some type of business or find some career where you can do that in a way that's monetizable and works to your strengths and skill sets in a competitive world. So maybe that means being a photographer on the beach and so forth, but ultimately it may mean that you will not be point blank just sitting on a beach drinking beers. Maybe that means letting people record you while doing that and maybe make it entertaining to the point where people are willing to watch, and then you could turn that into something with ads. But even then, you really have to consider, is that something that I really want? Do I want people who I don't know publicly watching me drink beer on the beach? So thanks for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed this free video, and I'll see you next week.